Emotional maturity can be profoundly affected by the experiences that we have when we're growing up as children. Sadly, many people in our culture grow up in environments where they did not have their basic needs met, such as the need to feel safe, emotionally safe and secure. Some of them even grew up impacted by traumatic events such as sexual or physical or psychological abuse, or were emotionally subject to emotional and physical neglect. In these cases, individuals, they grow up physically, but by no fault of their own, their emotional maturity can become stuck in those lower levels of emotional maturity at the time where they were being impacted. On another hand, many of those who had their basic needs met at a younger age were then able to shift and become fours when we are now young adults and adults. So people regard themselves as being mature because they think about maturity in the form of intelligence. When most people reach a level 4 on the scale of emotional maturity, they stop developing emotionally because our culture tells us that we're all grown up. So our focus shifts away from growing emotionally and towards achievement, status, power, prestige, and acquiring stuff. In such cases, people become shallow and superficial, remaining emotionally similar to how they were in high school. The way that we can begin to make smart choices in love is not to be fooled by all the strong romantic attraction that we feel when we're evaluating the compatibility of a partner. During the stage of infatuation, we tend to only see our partner's positive qualities and believe they are emotionally mature, regardless of how they actually behave and interact with us. However, a person's behaviors must consistently be mature over time and under many different circumstances in order for them to truly demonstrate emotional maturity. In order to gain a more thorough understanding, we have to also be aware of and evaluate their negative qualities. There are several qualities and behaviors that we can use to identify who a level 4 is on the scale. Level 4s tend to believe that life is something that we need to win at, often to win at all costs. So, for example, they may try to achieve power or collect as many material goods as possible. In general, they're really focused on material things. Level 4s are also poor communicators and poor listeners. They have a need to be liked and may become upset if they feel that someone has criticized them or does not like them. They whine or complain about people or circumstances or focused intently on gossiping about others. The way that we can begin to make smart choices in love is not to be fooled by all the strong romantic attraction that we're feeling when we're evaluating the compatibility of a partner. During the stage of infatuation, we tend to see our partner's positive qualities and believe that they are emotionally mature, regardless of how they're actually behaving and interacting with us. However, a person's behaviors must consistently mature over time and under many different circumstances in order for them to truly demonstrate emotional maturity. In order to gain a more thorough understanding, we have to always be aware of and evaluate their negative qualities as well. There are several qualities and behaviors that we can use to identify whether a person is at a level 4 on the scale. Level 4s tend to believe that life is something that we need to win at, or often trying to win at all costs. For example, they may try to achieve power or collect as many material goods as possible. In general, they're really focused on material things. Level 4s are also poor communicators and poor listeners. They have a need to be liked, and they may even become upset if they feel that someone has criticized them or does not like them. They whine or maybe complain about people and circumstances, or focus intently on gossiping about others. They may also present themselves as victims in any situation and hold negative and pessimistic views. If there's a breakdown in their relationship, people at this level don't acknowledge that they could be at fault, even partially. They are also very quick to blame their partners. Level 4s are critical and judgmental, and they often are intolerant of differences. They're insecure and have a need to control situations and people, and they may act passive-aggressively. And so all of these behaviors present the case of a person who views their relationships as being more about me instead of we. Research shows that people who remain at this level of emotional maturity tend to have an insecure attachment style, and this is reflected in some of their behaviors with others. Despite their negative characteristics, it's important to keep in mind that 4s are not bad people. In fact, they can be hugely productive because they have a drive to achieve and a need to be seen as successful and a desire to be liked. And they can be highly compassionate and generous citizens who interact easily with others. They can also be very loyal and true to their convictions. However, a romantic relationship with a person at level 4 on the emotional maturity scale is most often painful, unsatisfying, and unfulfilling. Looking at the top of our scale of emotional maturity is a 6. So reaching this level of maturity may take a lifetime to cultivate. So a 6 no longer experiences serious difficulties. They have transcended beyond the anxieties of the everyday material world, and they've reached a level of self-actualization. Our discussion today involves a special focus on striving to be at the level 5. Level 5s are capable of having profound and satisfying and fulfilling love relationships. They have a strong sense of emotional maturity because they value growing and developing. And it is not only with this growth and development that we can break free of the cycle of relationships with the wrong people and begin cultivating a rewarding romantic relationship using a clear mindset. I understand we're growing up in a culture that produces entire generations of emotional victims, and I don't want to be a victim. How can I make sure that I don't get trapped in the victim mindset? By being aware that this process of victimization exists and that we don't want to be involved with it, we have then already taken the first step toward developing beyond being the victim. There may be many messages in our culture that reward a victim mentally, but the good news is that we always have the possibility to develop our emotional maturity and transcend in this mindset. Keep in mind, though, that potential to grow is not the same as inevitable growth. As we develop beyond our adolescence and into young adulthood and adulthood, we consciously choose a path of emotional growth. While emotional maturity can be learned, it's a choice. We must then make a conscious decision to develop our emotional maturity. If the choice to develop emotionally is not made, an individual will most likely not move beyond the emotional level of an adolescent or a teenager, despite the trappings of material success that they might achieve as an adult. So in order to avoid the path of victimization that 4s experience, and instead pursue the path of emotional development, becoming the 5, we have to know what emotional maturity consists of. So we also have to take responsibility for ourselves and the decisions we made, even though we may not have known better at a time. In our life, in our past, there is a difference between blame and responsibility. We're not at fault for not knowing any better, but we are responsible for learning our lessons and moving through them. So with all of that in mind, let's take a moment now to dig a little bit deeper into the 4 areas of growth that comprise emotional maturity. Awareness. The first dimension of emotional maturity is awareness. Awareness is so critical to the emotional maturity that the very definition of emotional maturity is hinged on it. Emotional maturity is defined by the awareness of yourself and your impact on others, and then behaving in ways that align with that awareness. Therefore, having a strong sense of awareness of ourselves and of others is really critical for developing emotionally. A victim mindset not only avoids being aware of others' emotional needs, it also keeps people from recognizing their own emotional needs by focusing on short-term fulfillment and superficial things, Emotional maturity refers to the degree that a person is making a successful adjustment to life. They're not tied up into a single view of the world. Rather, they're flexible in their perspectives. An emotionally mature person is able to cope with life's challenges and emotionally change situations, even if they're feeling fearful or angry, frustrated, or disappointed. Awareness involves the ability to look inside oneself. People who have this quality have a great insight into their own motivations and are readily in touch with their feelings. The awareness of our feelings is important because feelings are at the core of our existence. Although we're a society of movers and doers, and despite the fact that we're all a part of a culture that values constant activity, we are still primarily feeling creatures. Nearly everything that we do or do not do is motivated by how we want to feel or that we don't want to feel. Emotionally mature people are aware of what motivates them on a level of feeling, but they also value making sure that they can feel and sustain happiness. They do not simply live for the moment and chase short-term thrills. Emotional maturity is displayed in certain behaviors and values. People who have emotional maturity share in decision making. They're good communicators and they practice active listening. They also look to resolve conflicts in a constructive way. So these behaviors occur in part because the emotionally mature person is aware that other people have needs that they are trying to fulfill in their interactions and relationships. Emotionally mature people are self-confident, assertive, and internally motivated. People who have not attained emotional maturity might be motivated to work and take part in other activities in exchange for external rewards like money, fame, recognition, and praise. But the emotionally mature person, however, has internal motivation. They take part in activities for the importance that they assign to those activities and the internal rewards that they feel from accomplishing them. Within the realm of work, these individuals have no problem asking for a raise because they internally understand their value and their worth. And by chance, if they happen to get laid off, they don't spend weeks worried about and questioning whether they are worthy. Their perspective is that when one door closes, another one opens. The quality of awareness in the emotionally mature person goes beyond noticing features in the present. It also involves concern for the future. Therefore, emotionally mature people plan for what is to come. They stay organized and remain self-reliant. They take initiative and responsibility for creating their own lives. Emotionally mature people are anchored in reality, but also have an optimistic view. They have good self-control and they're patient and they persevere in the face of challenges. They're positive and constructive in their dealings with others. They're inclusive, considerate, and thoughtful. And they remember others' birthdays, anniversaries, and send cards on Mother's Day. A lot of people wonder if it's possible to reach a level 6 on this scale of emotional maturity. But I want to remind you that we are all striving to be the 5 in our lifetime. This is where profound love happens and where we live in our power. A level 6 on the scale is to be whole and complete. A 6 can get their emotional needs met with or without a partner. At this level, this is reserved for those who become enlightened, and we call them self-actualized. No more ego, no fears, no anxiety, no doubts, no inhibitions, just a need for higher truth and to simply be with all that is. The second emotional maturity trait is relating. Now, we are all social beings and we need contact, association, and involvement with other people. And this is what we call relating. We all have the need to be connected to others, especially with a romantic partner. The more meaningful and intimate the relationship is, the more fulfilling it will be. So with a lover, there's a special opportunity to make a deep emotional investment, to form a partnership where the whole is stronger than the sum of its parts. The emotionally mature person is capable of relating, empathizing with, and understanding the feelings of their partner. At the same time, they never lose sight of their own individuality because their sense of self remains strong. This means that an emotionally mature person is not dependent on their partner for self-respect and validation. Instead, emotionally mature people, their relationships have a healthy balance of time together and actually time apart. I would say that closeness is a form of relating, but what is it exactly? As a therapist, I have often been asked this question. I would answer by saying that emotionally mature partners understand that in order to have closeness, they must first create an emotionally safe environment, free of judgment or criticism. Closeness is generated from the experience of sharing emotions, sharing one's true self without any fear of rejection or being wronged. In many ways, this requires us to be emotionally vulnerable, as we have to peel back the layers and let ourselves be seen in our relationship. Closeness comes from feeling acceptance and empathy for our partner. This level of relating is where we become invested and we create the emotional insurance that we are seeking. This is how we build trust. When partners can consistently trust one another, share an unconditional acceptance of each other, and know that their feelings are validated, they're then able to achieve emotional closeness. But what qualities do we need in order to achieve closeness? This is where the other two domains of emotional maturity come into play. The third dimension of emotional maturity is competence. Life can be rather simple, yet so many people struggle because they have difficulties accepting how things just really are. One aspect of competence is accepting environments and situations, even when they do not favor or meet our needs. We all have wants and needs, and when they're not met, we tend to feel personally insulted and maybe hurt. We blame others for not meeting our needs, and in some cases, we even blame others for failing to anticipate our needs that we have not even really directly communicated to them. In these situations, we're left feeling frustrated and angry and disappointed. We blame other people for these negative feelings, and we may have even seek to take out our frustration on others. So this is the process by which people become victims. The prevalent view in our culture is that when we want something but cannot meet our desires, we call it a problem. But like John Lennon said, there are no problems, only solutions, and competent people understand this. Of course, competence is not just being able to accept what is. Competence also involves knowing how and when to act on our needs. The competent person is flexible in their thoughts and their perspectives, their decision-making abilities, and importantly, in coming up with great solutions. When presented with a challenging situation that most people would describe as a problem, competent people look at this situation as an opportunity to test their personal power and their skills and their knowledge. They choose to treat the situation as a game where they're looking for the best solution. And we can all benefit from considering this outlook the next time that we're feeling like we've encountered a problem in life. We can realize that we have a choice. We can take the situation personally and feel defeated, or see it as an opportunity to create a new solution or to open a new door. Can you give an example of competence in a relationship? Sure. Let's say that a couple, John and Bob, are going on a date and they're going to go see a movie. Unfortunately, this night they are both running a little bit late. So when they both get to the theater, they see that there is a long ticket line, right? As many cases. A person who has not yet developed competence might think, well, this is a problem we're having here. We're going to miss our movie. However, the competent partner would think, well, we may be a few minutes late getting into the movie, but right now, we can actually meet some really cool people that are standing in line and just enjoy ourselves while we wait. We can always catch another movie. Besides, we'll probably only miss the previews anyway. The competent partner knows that the long line is not a problem. It's an opportunity to meet new people. So normally we view these types of situations as problematic because we try to force our environment and our lives to conform to the way that we think that things should be. Competence exists in realizing that there is no way it should be, there's only the way that it is. So additionally, the way it is constantly developing, unfolding, and presenting itself to us. Our environment doesn't deliberately thwart us or keep us from meeting our needs. It has nothing to do with us. We're just here, and we ascribe our own meaning onto our situations. So the competent person understands there are no problems. They're just opportunities. They are also able to apply that understanding in their relationships as new situations arise. Developing competence, in addition to being aware and relating to others, can help us successfully deal with the situations that we face in life. Competence requires a mindfulness and a practice and a willingness to take on a new challenge under the ever-changing circumstances of our lives. So remember, we are not victims of our circumstances. We are exercising our own personal power in every moment. And we exert this positive power in our relationships. Then we are able to move forward with emotional maturity. Thanks for watching.